In this lesson, we'll try to understand what is a data center. So we're extensively hearing this word called as a data center. So many people will be using terminology called as a data center, data center. And mainly in the infrastructure side, people who are maintaining desktops or servers kind of things, people will be using a terminology called as a data center. So we'll try to understand what is a data center. So before we go into the technicalities of the data center, we'll take a business case, and we'll try to understand from a business case that how we can basically set up a data center and what are all requirements. So there's a small organization called as a RAM Transportation having 50 buses. So they have some 50 buses which operates to the multiple destinations like Chennai, Bangalore, Pune, Mumbai on a daily basis. Now they have some challenges basically. So they want to improve their business. So in order to improve their business, basically enhance their business operations, streamline the ticketing booking, and basically provide a better customer satisfaction. Considering all these things, so they come up with a decision to basically implement an online booking system. Today we see many online booking systems like Redbus, Abibus, Guaibibo, and many of the transport organizations have their own booking systems. Similarly, so this organization also is willing to implement their own online booking system. So as part of this cycle, so they've selected a software vendor who is going to provide this online booking system. So they identified one vendor, basically who has an experience in already have an online booking solution. Now the organization is requested for a detailed requirement of resources to ensure the smooth operations of the business. So now the organization is requesting the software vendor to provide the detailed maybe requirements. So now what happened now? Now the organizations have so many questions before proceeding with the purchase of software and hardware. So it is not only the finalization of the booking system, but they have so many questions like how many servers are required and what configuration is required. How to secure that application, customer data from cyber threats. So today we hear a lot of cyber threats. Now people can take the customer data, basically can bring the system down. So how do we protect this application and customers' data from cyber threats? So how to ensure 99.9% availability of the application? Now, once we implement an online booking system, now everybody is dependent on the online booking system. So if that application goes down, our customers cannot book the tickets. Now there is impact on the business. So we need to ensure that that application should be available all the time. And what happens if the server gets crashed? How to recover the data? Yes, there are a lot of customers have booked their tickets and paid through online. Now, for some reasons, the server gets crashed. The hardware got failure now. Now, what happens to the data? What happens to the customer data? How do we recover them? And what all required to maintain the servers and necessary devices? So in order to implement this online booking system, so what all required? Like this, the customer, basically the organization has so many questions. Now, to address these questions, so what happened is the chosen vendor over the software vendor has proposed. Again, he said that, okay, you need two servers, each one with four processors, 16 GB RAM, 512 GB storage, and Windows Server operating system. And two more servers, each one with 8 processors, 32 GB RAM, 1 TB storage, Windows Server operating system, and SQL Server software. And you need a firewall, basically to secure from the cyber threats, and a network switch to establish a connectivity between all these servers, and a backup server in order to back up the applications and data. Okay, for some reasons, if the servers gets crash or a database gets crash, so to have a continuous backup, the backup server with the two processors, 8 GB RAM and 5 TB capacitive storage, and backup software to continuously take the backup of these particular applications and data, and to basically provide the connectivity to the internet and where customers can interact with this application. So the software vendor basically suggested that have 100 Mbps internet connectivity. Now, these are all basically the requirements given by the software vendor to the transport organization, saying that, hey, in order to have online booking system, you need to have all these kind of devices in place. Now after collecting all this information, now the organization has many questions. Now, where to keep these equipments and how to secure them? Okay, once we purchase a 4 servers and a backup server, a firewall, network switch, and basically connectivity, all these devices, where do we keep them? And how do we secure them? And what all required to maintain these equipment safely? So buying these equipments is not a big challenge, but where to keep them, how to secure them, and how to maintain them. That is the importance. Now the organization has the questions now. So now what is required now to keep all these things? We cannot keep the servers on the floor. We cannot keep the servers on the floor because the servers generate a lot of noise. Servers needs a cooling to operate properly. And in order to secure the data, we cannot keep the servers on the floor. So we need to keep it in a secure place. That's where we see basically a space, a secure space in the office premises. So we need basically a secure place which can be locked, which can be secured with biometric devices or some kind of only authorized people can enter into that particular room. So we call basically, let's say, a small office space in an off premises. Now, is that sufficient? No. Now, where do I keep that servers? So I cannot keep that servers on the floor or something because the rats and so many flies and other things can basically enter into that room. So I need to secure that room from a proper. Now, in order to keep that servers, so we use something called as a server rack. We use something called as a server racks. So like this, a server rack looks as a small equipment. It comes in various form of height, like people will call 24 U rack, 32 U rack, 42 U rack. Like we call them as basically like in U is basically like in inches. So 42 inches, 32 inches, 24 inches rack like that. So basically we need a small server rack. So what is the use of the server rack? The server rack allows us to keep servers inside the server rack so that we don't need to keep them on the floor. So as you can see a trace and mountable positions. So we can mount the servers to this server rack so that they don't need to keep on the floor. Or we can insert, basically we can keep the servers on these trays, which we can see called as there are 4 trays in this server rack. So we can basically, if there are tower servers, we can keep it on this particular trays. So that way what happens is the servers can be placed inside the server rack so that they don't need to be on the floor, and so that there's no disturbance and nobody will be able to basically easily touch them. Now, is the server rack enough? So the server rack is basically to keep the servers. And inside the server rack, we can keep servers. We can keep network devices. This is not only meant for servers, but also you can keep network devices, like as this vendor is suggesting to have a firewall and network switch. Now inside this particular server rack, we can have a network devices like a firewall, and a switch. So with all these devices, we can properly keep inside a server rack. So by having a server rack, so we insert servers, network devices like firewall switches, backup storage devices into this particular server rack. Now, based on the capacity of the server rack or the size of the server rack, we can keep the number of servers. In some server racks, we can keep up to 10 servers. In some server racks, we can keep up to 20 servers. In some server racks, we can keep up to 40 servers based on the size of the server, type of the server, and the size of the server rack. So this is basically an office premises. So inside this basically office premises somewhere, we identified a room something. Inside that, we are basically keeping a server rack. Now this server rack is consisting of all servers, network devices, and backup devices running these applications. Now, is having a server rack sufficient? No. Now, what do we need? Power. So in order to run the server racks, we need to have a proper power connectivity. That is electricity. So in order to have, we cannot connect the servers to a raw power. So you need to have an UPS. Now, inside this particular premises, we can have an UPS. And UPS can be inserted, basically kept inside the premises, because UPS also needs a lot of cooling and other things. So not only a server rack with servers, network devices will sufficient. It should have a proper power connectivity. That is, it should have a UPS system. So that in case of a power failure, now you need to have a power backup. What happens if the power goes down? Now servers goes down. If the servers goes down, application will go down. Now if the servers goes down unexpectedly, there is a chance of the servers get crashed and data loss. There could be so many issues. So in order to overcome that, we need to have a proper power backup. So an UPS with like in 2 hours of backup or in 3 hours of backup, like where we'll have a batteries, which in order to have that, so UPS with batteries. UPS with batteries. Like which says 2 hours of backup, 3 hours of backup. There could be a question comes arise now. What happens if the power doesn't come up even after 3 hours of power connectivity, power loss? Now the servers will go down. So what happens if the power goes down for 3 hours of time and the UPS will come only for 3 hours? Now the servers will go down. The servers will go down. The application will go down. Customers will not be able to book the tickets. There is a business impact, like so many things. So now we start buying generator. We say that, hey, in case of the power does not come back in 3 hours of time, okay, we can power on a generator, which can basically generate a power. Okay, so having a UPS is not sufficient. So you need to have a generator because the UPS can have a power backup for certain hours. Beyond that, basically, if the power goes, so you need a generator. Then these servers runs on a 24/7. So we cannot shut down the servers because we don't know when customer can book the ticket. A customer can book the ticket in the early morning, can book the ticket in the late night, can book the ticket. It means that the servers should be up and running 24/7. So when these servers run 24/7, they generate a lot of heat. So we need to maintain a proper cooling system. It means you need to have air conditioner. So because these servers generate a lot of heat and UPS will generate a lot of heat. Now we need to ensure that these devices doesn't get heated because the servers gets heated, they may get power off and the operational efficiency may come down. So to overcome that, we need to have a proper cooling system, air conditioner. Now, do we need to have a single air conditioner or multiple air conditioner? I cannot run air conditioner for 365 days. A single air conditioner, if I run it for 365 days, then basically after 2-3 months of time, we see it gets failed. Or basically we should have an high energy or basically high efficiency air conditioners. Okay, so in order to run an online booking system, we need a room, a premises with a server rack, which can hold basically servers, network devices, firewall switch, and basically UPS is giving a power backup and a generator outside of it, basically, and a proper an AC cooling system. Air conditioners inside this particular room. Then we can say that, okay, our application can be 99.9% availability or some 98% availability. What is this room called now? This room is called as a data center. This is called a data center. A data center can be a small room which consisting of a server racks to hold the servers, network devices like firewall switches and backup devices like tape drives, multiple devices with having a power backups like UPS with batteries and power backup and having a proper cooling system like air conditioner which ensures the smooth operations running of these data, basically applications. So data center is a small room, or could be a big room, or could be a big space, which can hold server racks. So it depends on organization to the organization. A small organization might need a server room with an 100 square feet to hold one or two server racks with all the servers, network devices, firewalls, switches, UPSs, and proper air conditioners. And different organization might need a premises with 500 square feet of space with holding and 10 server racks, holding up to 30 servers and various network devices. And so these are data center. The size of the data center can vary based on the organization to the organization and requirement to the requirement. A data center is basically a space in the premises which holds the server racks, applications, data, provides the better connectivity and cooling systems, power efficiency, and everything, which is called as a data center. So what are all challenges you're here now? We need to ensure AC runs on 24/7. So one every day has to check whether the AC is being maintained or properly or not, whether the UPS batteries are functioning or not, whether the generator is functioning or not. Okay, these are all your other equipments which needs a lot of maintenance in the data center. So this is called a data center. Now, this organization has to build a small data center within their office premises to hold or to basically have their online application. So they have to identify a space in the premises, buy a server rack, buy a servers, insert servers into this, keep devices, network devices like firewall switches and UPS, have the air conditioners and have a generator as a backup, okay, to ensure that the online application booking system is available for 99.9% to have that. So when you look at we can see a data centers, a lot of server racks. These are basically many server racks, a lot of cooling systems, secure. Here we can see called as an rows of that. Okay, so it needs a lot of power, cooling, and everything, which is basically required. So this we call them as basically a data center. We can see basically server racks with basically network cables connectivity and servers filled with. Okay, so this we typically call as a data centers. Now the question comes over here that do I really need to build my own data center? Can't I keep all these things in someone else? Now that's where we see called as a third-party data centers, or people call this a co-location data centers. What are these third-party data centers? Co-location data centers. Now, as a small organization, maintenance of this data center, like ACs, UPS, generator, and the space, everything is basically an additional cost to me. Now, my question is, why can't I keep my servers in someone else's data center? So what are these third-party data centers? These are basically organizations like Reliance, Tata, okay, have built the data centers. So what these organizations will do is then they have set up the data centers where customers can bring in their servers and put it into data centers, into these people data centers, and they can run the applications. So which is also called as in co-location data centers. Co-location and data centers. So instead of having the servers, network devices in my office premises and maintain them, ACs, UPS, generator, and everything, I simply buy the servers, network devices, go to the third-party data centers or co-location data centers, and put my servers there. So like Reliance, Tata, there are so many vendors who have the data centers. What is the advantage of these things? As a customer, I don't need to bother about the air condition maintenance. I don't need to bother about the internet connectivity. I don't need to bother about the generator, power backup. So what happens? These third-party data centers, third-party data centers will maintain the physical infrastructure like space, cooling, power backup, generator, and physical security, and internet connectivity. So these third-party data centers or co-locations, they basically maintain the space, they maintain the air conditions, they maintain the power backup, they maintain generators. If power backup is not enough, they power on the generators. They basically provide a physical security so that no authorized people enters into this premises and internet connectivity. Now, what is the advantage for a customer? I go into third-party center, I put my servers, install my application, start using that application. I maintain my only servers remotely. Now, the customer has basically an option whether to build their own data center or put their equipment into third-party data centers or co-location and data centers who are providing the data center services. So it is up to the customer. Some customers feel that building their own data center is expensive and maintenance. So why can't we put servers in third-party centers and pay them on a monthly basis? So we basically customers can pay to the third-party data centers on a monthly basis for a space you consume. Like you are consuming a one server rack space and how much power you're consuming it, how much capacity of bandwidth you're consuming it. Based on that, you pay it. So you don't need to invest on other things which is required like ACs, UPS. Some organizations, they feel that, okay, monthly is a bit expensive. One-time investment on all these equipments is easier than we can maintain it on our own for a longer duration of it. So it all depends on how organizations think and whatever is beneficial to them, so that people go with that one. Okay, so that's what called as a data center. In the next lesson, we'll try to understand the generations of data centers, how they evolved. Okay, so where we talk about the physical data centers, then virtual data centers, then we talk about the cloud data centers.